Imagine waking up every time you die, reliving your worst nightmare again and again and again. That's the core of Until Dawn. But this time, it's not at your controller, it's on the screen, in the big screen. That's the Until Dawn movie. And we're here to talk about it. This is Killer Cuts and your Until Dawn review coming up in just a moment. Hello again, once again, everybody. Geez, stumbling over my words already. Here we go. Killer Cuts is the show. I am Bobby Munson, and joined as always, the person sitting beside me, smiling over there. It's the natural Astrid Bizarro. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and here to talk about a movie. I don't know if a lot of people have been talking about this one. Interested to talk about it. This was one that came as a suggestion from yourself for me to check out because I hadn't gotten around to it just yet. So just recently had the chance to watch Until Dawn, and I have no familiarity with the games. These are PlayStation games. I've never owned a PlayStation, never had a privilege of playing these, so I have no preconceived knowledge of what to expect going into this whole thing. All I had was the fairly mixed reviews. A lot of the times people saying that they weren't too big of fans of this, so I wasn't sure what to expect going into it. Watched it, kind of pleasantly surprised. I mean, it's not an amazing film by any means, but it's not a terrible film either. So just a little bit of a background, just so everybody knows. It's a 2025 survivor horror film directed by David Sandberg, written by Gary Dauberman and Blair Butler, based on the PlayStation games production. And the cast includes Ella Rubin as Clover, Michael Cimino as Max, Odessa Azion, I hope I pronounced that properly. If I didn't, my apologies. That's Belmont in the movie. Maya Mitchell as Melanie, and Peter Stormare as in there as well. He is actually, we just looked this up before going on here. We were talking about him. I was like, where do we know this guy? And I mentioned I knew him from Prison Break. He's been in a lot of stuff, but he's also in the games, which I thought was a unique thing as well, too. So before we go any further than that, Astrid, your initial thoughts of Until Dawn, the movie adaptation?
So I had completely forgotten that this is based on the video game when going into it, and then started to watch it, and I'll say more or less like 30 minutes into it, everybody dies, and I just went, so what's gonna happen with the next half an hour, like an hour and a half of my life in this movie then, because everybody died at this point, and that's when I went, oh, it's like the video game, so we're gonna get a few of these, okay, um, but I like how it went really interestingly for me in that aspect of it. Once I had learned what it was really like, because at first I was thinking, oh, it's gonna be the same thing all over again. It's gonna get boring and repetitive, and I'm really glad it wasn't. I'm glad that every time they had let's say a new turn, to put it like that, they learn something new about themselves and about the environment they're in. So you see them kind of growing in that aspect of it and growing about and learning about their surroundings. So it's very interesting. It reminded me a little bit also of like House of Wax, and that's in that part of it, the way they learn about the town they're in and the history behind it, how it's affecting them in the end. But yes, if you went in like me, that went like blind into it and just thinking, I'm just gonna watch it because it's a horror movie and it's something new. And I feel like a dummy just thinking, how did everybody die so early?
Yeah, and I mean, you would kind of warn me about the video game aspect of it going into it, and I still kind of didn't really take that on board. In that opening scene when everyone went, I'm like, huh. And then I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. Okay, there was the clock on the wall, that had the hourglass on it, and I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to catch on already to the concept here. I'm like, they live, they get another turn. It's like a video game. You die, you come back, you try again, kind of thing. Only we find out more and more that it's like the more that you continuously try, there's only so many lives you have in this thing before you kind of get sucked in and become part of the negative side or the atmosphere of this entire thing, a part of this whole situation. But the idea is to survive. You have to survive until dawn. You have to beat the clock in order to get your life back, is generally the concept behind this whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. So I could see where people might find that a little bit of a tough pill to swallow, possibly, but I thought it was a cool concept because what did it give us? It gave us lots of cool, gory death scenes over and over again. And you never knew quite what you were going to get next because there was different elements of horror, from slasher to supernatural to, you know, body horror type things, like we saw with them drinking the water because they, you know, after coming back a few times, like, man, I'm thirsty, so oh, the water works finally, let's take a drink of water. You should know every element in this is potentially something that could make you not survive until dawn. So I thought that was a really cool concept throughout. I have no knowledge of the game, so I can't really relate and say this is exactly how the games go. If you are a fan of the games and you can give us a little bit more insight, we'd love to learn more. So make sure, if you're watching this, go into the comment section, give us a little bit more insight into the depths of the games and how they compare to the movie as well too. But yeah, let's talk about that gore again. Like we're talking about, I mean, this wasn't just any gore. We had slasher gore, we had masked killer, we had, like I said, the body horror with the water where all of a sudden it's just exploding and everything. And I mean, there was the one scene when the one girl was, her leg blew up first and she's crawling across the ground and everything. I mean, this went to every extreme to make sure that you got that gore factor. So whether or not you feel the script is paper thin and that it's not fleshed out all that well, I mean, if nothing else, if you're a gore fan and you're into that kind of thing, you can get some good entertainment out of the death scenes.
Yeah, I like the fact that that's what I was saying. Is like it's every time it's something different. So I was concerned at first, thinking it was gonna get repetitive and boring for me, but then every single like death somehow was different. And like you said, we had the explosion. We had them getting forgot the word, but just thinking of like the spiritual side of it. We had the spiritual part of it too. Like they get possessed. That's what I was looking for. So it's like we have different aspects of it, and thinking how it affects them, because Clover, the main female main character, she's looking for her sister that's missing, and that's how she really gets to be in this time. She gets to follow her, trying to find her, and the fact that they use that into her mind and think of like she's looking for her sister, so they try to find ways to use her sister's voice and clues about her sister missing to draw Clover into different aspects of this town. And I like the fact that they basically use whatever's in their minds, try to use it against them at the same time. And the way they keep learning about the person, because they keep talking to their friends, and it's like, oh, this is what happened, and I came here for my sister, so they start connecting the dots. And I like that, like you said, every kill was different. The only thing that I thought that would have been different for me is like I really thought that at the end maybe we wouldn't have everybody survive. I feel like that was the only thing I was not expecting. I thought maybe at the end we will have maybe Clover and her ex-boyfriend kind of survive, be the only two. So I was not expecting the whole group to survive, especially because of the horror movies. Usually they only have at least one or two people left at the end. So that's something that became a little bit unexpected for me.
Yeah, and I definitely see where you're coming from in that aspect, because it, like, as much as they did die throughout this movie, they didn't truly die, which kind of left us with real no consequences to the whole thing. A lot of tonally and the concept behind it, the whole dragging someone to a mysterious place to find a loved one, is very reminiscent of Silent Hill in many sense. And a lot of this feels like it could be borrowed from Silent Hill in a sense, especially on the film aspect of it. Yeah, so I did get that, and I get where some people might have a problem with that. That, you know, there was a lot of, like, you've seen certain pieces of this from other horror films or games, and it seemed like it was pasted together to create something new. And while that isn't exactly the most ideal way to go, and especially with the horror movies we've seen between last year and this year so far, so many are stepping up the game to these massively fantastic levels that sometimes when you see this, our expectations are a lot higher than they should be at times. And maybe I went in with a lowered expectation on this one just because of the fact that I seen what some people had said about it already and had that knowledge. So I wasn't expecting much and kind of left a little bit more satisfied than I thought I would be, because there was some fun death scenes in it. I was able to kind of cope with the fact that it's like, this isn't going to be your long walks. This isn't your companions. This isn't movies like that are trying to step the genre up into a whole different ball game.
Mhm.
This is a paint by numbers horror cliche stereotype type movie, but it wasn't dull. There wasn't a lot of character development outside of a couple of key characters that were really good in it and everything. But they tried, and this isn't pass on it, never watch it sort of situation. I can see the silver lining where it's like, I think most horror fans could get some sort of joy out of watching this film.
Yeah, I would say go with it. Almost like an open mind, just thinking of like it's a video game, and aside from that, just don't look into anything else. That way, don't feel weird when you see them dying so early on and see them keep trying and trying. And I like the character development, the aspect how they keep growing with each other, because at first, even though they're friends, they're also such a desperate situation that they don't trust each other. And what the other ones are saying, they're always like talking over each other, not listening to one another or taking each other's advice. And I feel like as they keep learning that they only have a certain amount of lives, they almost like team up together in a way to try to overcome this and try to survive this. Um, the other thing that got me curious too is like the other person that really was involved in all this was Dr. Hill that we were talking about, Peter. And I think it was interesting at the end because you're like you see the bad guy, not always, but you see when you see that bad guy like him, you kind of thought like he was gonna die, and all of a sudden we see him showing up somewhere else. Like maybe this would continue on in some different way. So I think I'll be really interested to see how kind of like that video game concept could happen in a different town, not like this one that he had like history and ties to, and not where he was at. And I think that would be something like interesting to think about, and perhaps maybe they could see how Clover and her friends could say, "Wait, that's kind of what happened to us in a way." Or they're gonna go the route of like the escape room movies, how all of a sudden in the next movie the people are involved, but at the same time when they go back, everything's gone. So they look themselves like they're crazy at this point. But like you said, I also feel like there's a mixture of movies here too, because like I say, it reminds me a lot of House of Wax being in that sort of town and learning about the town and how you fit into it and the part of the survival aspect of it too. And just I didn't know at the end. I was just thinking, oh, we're just gonna get Clover and Max to survive, and those were the only two people. I was hoping at the end she will find her sisters to kind of be that third person, and once you see that happening, that she basically almost had to kill her sister in a way to be able to survive herself. I think that was something that was unexpected for me. I was hoping at the end we will all see her like reuniting with her family, perhaps, because another thing we see them driving off, but we don't get anything else of like an outcome of what happens to them in real life after they have gone through this experience.
Yeah. And yeah, so no real drawn conclusion. Where do they go from here or what happens to them? And I also thought that, the doctor sets this whole thing up and he tells them there is a way to survive, that they have to make it until dawn to survive. And there always has to be a sacrifice. One of them has to die. And I'm thinking to myself,
Mm.
there's going to be something here where it's not going to be any of the people that are actually involved. It's going to be some other way around this. And sure enough, the most easy way to do this was he's drinking a cup of coffee. He turns his back for 1 second. Said coffee slides under the dripping water coming from the ceiling. A couple drops get in, and next thing you know, he blows up. And I guess that applies too, because video game
Mhm.
adaptation. I'm not 100% sure how to really explain that. It's not the most satisfying or gratifying ending, but it's
Mhm.
okay. I mean, overall, I would say the best part of the movie is the gore and the horror aspect to it. Outside of that, this really is just it's a mindless Sunday afternoon flick to watch at home on streaming. It's not a rush and go see this in a theater type situation, which surprisingly a lot of people did, like a lot more than I thought had done so. Like when we talk about horror films and their success and how you gauge them, it's like we'll talk about the critic scores and everything like that in a moment. But this movie was made on a budget of $15 million and ended up earning 54. Now, I don't care what anyone says, as bad as a movie can be, when it turns a profit like that, that is a good return on investment. So it's clear that people will still like to go to watch these types of movies for the sake of seeing them. Or maybe there's that many Until Dawn video game fans that were willing to go spend the money to go in theaters. Regardless, they found
Mhm.
themselves enough of a niche to turn a decent profit on this movie. So sequel, probably. Whether or not it'll be a theatrical release or a straight to streaming type of
Mhm.
release, that's left to be seen, because this one feels like kind of a forgotten film in amongst all the horror films that have come out so far this year. Anything else you want to add before we go to the critical side of it?
I would say it's one of those movies, like you said, I waited until it came up on streaming service, and thankfully it was available on Netflix. But it's not one of those movies like I did with Long Walk, that I went myself and went, this sounds interesting enough that I want to go see it in the movie theater, to put it in that sort of way. So I figured, it was like, I don't know much about it, and I'd rather do it on streaming service in my comfort of my own home, not to buy a ticket for it. So it's one of those that I was really torn about. But like you said, it's like, if you have that moment and you have the time to watch it now that it's on streaming services, take the opportunity and see how you feel about it, because it's a little bit different from what usual horror movies are like.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. All right, so now onto the critical side of things. So Rotten Tomatoes, we're looking at a 52% rating for the critics, 67% from the audience. And if we go over to Metacritic, 47 out of 100. So we're looking at a mix. It's average, and it's about where my feelings stand with this. If I was to give it a letter grade, I'd be looking at a C to a C minus, where it's not unbearable to watch it, but it's not something I think I would necessarily go out of my way to revisit. Would I watch a sequel? Sure, I'll watch a sequel. I'll watch a brainless sequel to this movie, no problem. They might even improve it. I've seen it before, where a movie series starts off with one that's and then the sequel ends up being better. So there is room to improve. They could do something with it. Well, it's yet to be seen, but yeah, I'd say I'm on board with about that halfway mark. It's about that decent. I'd say watch it, but don't make it your high priority.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's like, if a sequel does come out, I will be interested in watching it, but I'll probably perhaps just wait until his streaming services to actually watch it. Like, I wouldn't be in any rush to like check it out, to be honest.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a rush to theater unless, hey, movie companies, we'd be okay with you sending us screeners for early viewing to do reviews on killer cuts. Just letting you know. And if you want to send us screeners, you want us to be able to review your movies ahead of time, why don't you just reach out to us on social? We'll start with Astrid's socials right now. Astrid, why don't you let the people know where they can find you and what you got coming up?
You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky as Astrid Pizarro, my Instagram and Threads Astrid Pizarro 20. And you can find me on Tuesdays doing Taking Over with Ol'Ed. We're discussing a lot of indie companies, so it's been a different chapter for us in Taking Over recently. So if you can join us and you can give us suggestions on any kind of indie companies to watch in the future, let us know definitely in the comments. And if you're here, you're probably on my YouTube channel, so if you can, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell to be notified when I upload or go live, and hit that like button as well if you can.
Fantastic. Support Astrid's channel. If you want to reach out to myself, Bobby Munson at the X, it's real Bobby Munson, Instagram, Threads, Video Bros SK, Video Bro _ Bobby Munson on the Twitch, and BobbyMunson.bsky.social for Blue Sky. That's where you can find me. What do I got coming up? As always, Thursday nights, Ring Respect Radio, myself and Bob Smokes, whether it's indie wrestling, trivia, or giving you a trip through the territories as we talk about the history of professional wrestling. That's what you can catch on Thursday nights. You can catch myself, Bob Smokes, again every Saturday on Prairie Pro Wrestling's YouTube channel as the commentary team calling all the shots. And on Sundays, it's your favorite Sunday sports stream. It is Point of View, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, to find out everything about the week in sports. And where can you find all these great shows and more? Well, we're on OLE Podcast. That's where you might have found us. And if you have, check out OLE Podcast on Twitch, on YouTube, across all social media. We appreciate the support. So likes, follows, subs, thumbs up, and there's these new hype point things I keep hearing about. I know they're not in all markets yet. Maybe by the release of this they are, but either way, if you got them hype points and you want to send us some love, hype these videos up, get us to the top, and help out small creators to get themselves seen across the globe. It really would be beneficial. But we want to thank all of you for tuning in to another great review here at Killer Cuts. And if you have any suggestions for us for future reviews to do, let us know in the comment section, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.